How was your session, Kevin?
It was good. Yeah, I just had to hit some shoulders and biceps. I just kept it short, did shoulders, and then I'll go back in later today and hit some biceps.
Sweet. Double day sessions. You don't need to hit any biceps anyway, Kevin. Your biceps are
Oh, come on.
That's true, man. we need to catch up, so don't do biceps, please.
Yeah. Right, cool. So I guess we'll just crack into this. We'll see where it takes us. I know that I've got probably a few questions that I want to ask Kevin. Valentin, I'll let you chirp in whenever you want to chirp in if you've got your own.
Yes.
We'll see where it takes us. Cool. Okay, so Kevin, a little bit of a wrap up as to what took you from sort of just getting into the gym, getting into training to competing on a natural stage. Just sort of briefly take us through that journey.
Yeah. So when I first started, like I've trained ever since like I was in the military, and just kind of grown from there. But it was actually when I came back home because I got a job away from home, and I came back home and my buddy had done like a cut, and he had like progress pictures from when he very first started to the very end, and I was just like amazed at what he'd done in a matter of, it was like 3 months or something, and it just kind of baffled me, and I was like, man, I want to try to do that. And so I kind of started doing like online transformation contests, through like Muscle Tech and stuff like that. And everybody's like, dude, why don't you get on stage? I was like in my, I don't know, probably early 30s at the time I was doing these transformation contests, and they're like,
wow, so it's quite a late start.
Yeah, pretty late start. I mean, I'd been lifting, obviously, but I just didn't, never thought about doing any bodybuilding shows. I just did it because I loved it,
Yeah.
So, I did some online transformation contests, and I met some pretty cool guys, like Todd Roberts was one of them.
I think I follow him on Facebook.
Yeah. He's a natural pro as well.
Yeah.
And he kind of talked me into it, really. He was like, man, you need to really get on stage. Think about getting on stage. And I had numerous people tell me to do it, and finally I was like, you know what, I'm just going to try it out, see what happens. And so in 2012 is when I first got on a stage, and that was in Boise, Idaho, at the Northwest Natural.
Did you have a coach for that, Kevin?
What's that?
Did you have a coach for that prep?
I did not. No, I just kind of flew by the seat of my pants, and I watched a lot of Lane Norton videos, and just did my own prep, and it actually turned out pretty good, because I did those transformation contests, so I kind of knew how to diet down and what I needed to do. Of course, the knowledge wasn't there like it is now, of course, but I gave it my best go, and I entered as a novice, and I showed up, and everybody's like, dude, what are you doing as a novice? I'm like, I've never done a show before. I don't know what I'm doing, so everybody's pretty surprised that I was a novice, but because I met Brian Mike at that show as well.
Oh, okay, cool.
And he actually won his pro card at that show. And we got to talking, and then that's how I got involved with 3DMJ after talking to Brian Miner at that show.
See.
Yeah.
So did 3DMJ take you from there? Did you do an off season with them, or did you sort of just go for another show in that year?
Yeah, I went for another show that year. So I did the spring show at Boise, the Northwest Natural, and then I went to 3DMJ and kind of talked to those guys.
Yeah.
And then they did my prep right into the fall show at Boise as well. It's the same show, it's just their fall show.
I see.
And so I prepped right into that show, and then I won my pro card at that show, that fall show.
Yeah. I mean, for anyone that doesn't follow Kevin already, I recommend that whilst you're listening, you try and pop up a picture of Kevin on Facebook or Instagram. You got a few somewhere. They're quite hidden. You don't share many. But I recommend that you pop a picture of Kevin up just so you can get some context as to how good this guy is. He's a top-level natural pro. So, yeah, I highly recommend that. Valentin, do you want to take the second question? Have you got anything at the top of your head at the moment that you sort of want to lead on with to ask Kevin?
Yeah, the thing I always wonder about with seasoned competitors is how each season of prepping has changed for you and if it got any easier? Because I don't know how many seasons you've prepped so far. 2012 was your first year.
Yes.
So did preps get easier for you over the years?
I would say, honestly, they got a little harder because,
Wow.
you know, my conditioning, I think, always gets a little better from show to show. And so the prep for me gets a little bit harder. You know, my last one, I take that back though. My last one, when I did my pro debut, that one, you know, it got kind of rough towards the end, but it wasn't as bad, I guess, as before. I felt like I went into it a little easier, you know, and then when I showed up at the actual show, like, it wasn't so stressful. You know, I was kind of prepared and kind of ready to go. And I felt like that show was probably my best package to date, I would have to say.
Sure, because this is something I always hear with seasoned guys. They usually say that every season is a bit easier, and I mean, if you can improve every season, and prep has to get harder in order to get to the new level. Obviously, it has to get harder, but at the same time, so much more poised and so much more. There's so much more routine you just go by. So it's easier overall, I guess, because you know what's coming. You know it's gonna suck. So,
yeah, you know it's gonna suck, but it never. I don't think the suck ever gets harder at the end. You know, it's always it always gets pretty rough. You know, when you're trying to reach that elite level conditioning.
For sure, man. Yeah,
it gets hard.
Yeah.
Sure. Sort of to lead off that tangent, Kevin, have you, over your past off seasons, have you tried a variety of approaches with regards to how much weight you sort of push up from your contest weight, and have you found now that potentially staying closer to your predicted stage weight has been more favourable as you've accrued the amount of muscle mass that you now have?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because like before, I would go into an off season and not really track at all and just like blow up, you know, gain like 20, 30 pounds and just get huge. And it's like, you know, I did that quite a few times, and it's just like, man, you know, I mean, that's fine, you know, because you get your strength gains and everything else, and I think that's beneficial as well. But when it comes back time to prep, I just feel like if you stay closer, like if you're like 10 pounds or a little more, you know, to stage weight,
where are you at now?
Makes prep a lot easier because you're close, and then you can really dial it in at the end, and you know, hit them fine-tuning points to where you're just there and you're really dialed in.
Yeah, sure. Where are you at now, Kevin? What's your weight now with relevance to your previous stage weight, and do you feel comfortable where you're at? Do you find that staying that close to stage weight, do you find you're still hungry? Do you find you're still having an element of food focus, or do you feel that now your body fat set point has almost changed a little bit to where you feel a little bit more comfortable at that level of body composition in an off season?
Yeah, so I feel a little more comfortable at a lower weight. You know, right now I weigh like between 186 and 189. You know, stage weight's probably 180. Somewhere in there.
Wow, so you're pretty close. Jesus Christ, man. Fuck.
I stayed pretty lean and pretty tight, but I don't know. I felt like I've done a mini cut before. I've done a mini cut going into a contest before, and I think that really helped my mentality as far as like strength goes, because before, you know, I cut down, I get to a weight, and then I really start to feel my strength drop off.
Yeah.
And I did a mini cut going into a show once, and I got down to like 183 for my mini cut, and then we kind of built back up a little bit.
Yep.
And I was able to maintain my strength a little more. And then holding that strength at that weight, it kind of helped me when I cut back down to maintain those strength gains, which, you know, I feel like that's a big thing for your mindset, because when that starts dropping off, you know, it kind of gets hard, and it's hard to deal with that. For me, anyway.
I mean, it's a very interesting discussion, and I'm sure, you know, I think we all have very sort of slightly differing views. I know that me and Valentin agree on most things when it comes to gaining, and sort of how much weight relative you need to push up. Me and Valentin, to put this in perspective, I think we're both 30 pounds above our previous stage weight, so we're pretty high in terms of relative body mass and where our body compositions are comparative to you. But in that retrospect, we're also at a lower level in terms of muscularity. Valentin's probably way closer to you than I am. I'm only just coming out of the juniors into men's open and things like that. So if you were to look back at, I know your career kind of started off a bit weird because you essentially accrued a lot of tissue and then competed and then pretty much got a pro card, as opposed to where I'm at. I'm like coming up the ranks. And I'm going to compete until I turn pro, in years to come. So if you were to, let's say me, like if you were to be me back when, you were like, you were me essentially, what would you do? Would you push up your body weight significantly to gain that initial muscle mass? Or would you favour staying a little bit leaner so that the preps are easier? What would you do in that sort of younger phase?
Yeah, if I was younger, I'd probably stay on the heavier side.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
Because I feel like you can make, I don't know, I think maybe gains are made better there. And, staying lean all the time when you're trying to gain muscle mass, I don't think it's beneficial at all.
Sure, man. Yeah.
I mean, always trying to, keep that beach body and it's like, and I think a lot of guys get skewed on that because of social media. You look at all these guys and they're like always lean and have abs and they're always ripped and looking amazing. And it's like, that's not for everybody. That's social media. Like,
yeah.
When you want to make your gains, I feel like you need to have those off seasons where you don't look like that, and you can make those lean gains and be better for your next show. I mean, you're just trying to make yourself better, so you got to do what you got to do, not what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, I fully agree because the thing is with getting fluffy. If you get fluffy and you get strong in the process, it's totally fine to get fluffy. But if you just get fluffy and nothing happens as far as progression goes, you're running into some huge problems, man. Because all of a sudden you're like 45 pounds of a stage weight and it's just weak as piss. So that's not good, man. So
no, that's not good at all.
yeah, especially at the beginning of your career. I think the younger guys listening to this, they should definitely consider at what level Kevin is at and what level AJ is at, what level I'm at, and then find basically their level and consider that within their next months and years of training, because you just can't copy something what an advanced high level bodybuilder is doing when you're like 3 years into training, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, how tall are you, Kevin? Out of interest.
How what?
How tall are you? Like height? What's your height?
I'm like 5'9", somewhere in there.
5'9". So you're not a lot taller than me, and your stage weight is like, close to the 180s. Like, if I was to stay relatively close to my stage weight for my entire career, I'd never be a decent bodybuilder because I'd always be a fucking under 150 pound bodybuilder. So younger guys, that's what you probably need to take into perspective, is that Kevin didn't compete until he was like, what, in your 30s, right?
Yeah, in my younger 30s, yeah.
If you'd done this approach when you were 18, 19, 20 years old, you'd have always been a bloody 149, 150 pound bodybuilder, and you'd have never been who you are today.
Absolutely.
Out of interest, Kevin, when you were before you competed in bodybuilding, were you competitive in any other sport?
No, I didn't really do any other sports besides like sports in high school. I didn't really compete in any other sports outside.
Wow. So so did you have just a really good passion for the gym up until the age at which you competed? What sort of age did you start actually lifting weights?
Well, I kind of started lifting when I was in high school because we had powerlifting classes.
I see.
So I do those, and I really like to go in there, and of course I'd go in there and lift arms all the time because that was my strong point.
How many times a week did you train arms when you were that age?
What's that?
How many times a week were you training your arms?
I don't know. Probably 3 times a week, like an idiot.
7.
7, yeah. But then, so after high school, then I went right into the military, and actually, to date, those are some of the best gyms I've ever walked into. So I really fell in love with it in the military and just kind of kept after it, after I got out and built the physique I have today, obviously. But yeah, I just had a passion for it when I was young, and so
Sure.
When I got out of the military and kind of got back into it, it was just like something I loved to do. You know, it's kind of a stress reliever, and you know, kind of fell into it that way.
Yeah, sure. What was your body composition like naturally when you were training at that point? Were you more on the lean side? Did you have to sort of really force calories to grow, or were you a guy that could, you know, eat not so many calories and still gain weight and size fairly easily?
Yeah, no, I was pretty small. So like when I was in high school, I wrestled in high school. And as a freshman, I wrestled at 98 pounds. When I graduated, I was like 135 pounds.
Wow. Jesus.
And then when I went in the military, I gained, you know, I probably gained up to like 150, and then just kind of progressively went from there.
Sure.
So yeah, it's been like it's usually harder for me to gain, so I kind of have to force the calories.
Yep.
You know, because my off seasons now, it's like my calories are so high that, you know, I just have to force that food in to maintain my weight, really.
Wow. Yeah. I guess that's because at the moment you're, you know, despite your body weight not being crazy high, you know, there are obviously bodybuilders out there 200 plus pounds. Your level of musculature, like your level of muscularity at this stage is extremely high. So, you know, the calories that are fueling that on a daily basis are obviously going to be high too. Combined with the fact that obviously from a past metabolism standpoint, you sound like someone that just requires a lot of calories to grow.
Absolutely.
Which is interesting. Valentin, you got anything to add?
I hope people realize that a natural bodybuilder at 180 is something it's crazy. It's quite impressive. I mean, that's big, right? I mean, we hear all these numbers like 200 pounds, 225 pounds, but if you're talking about somebody who's natural 180 on stage,
And
if you've ever
shredded
seen
to the bone.
somebody in person being 180 in contest shape, that's freaking crazy, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, people don't understand because like 180 sounds pretty light, you know, but like it's different when you're completely shredded to the bone, you know. I mean, it's you're right. And I mean, I've seen guys like pros, you know, when I did the Muscle Mayhem in 2013, you know, you've seen guys 190, 200 pounds. It's like just crazy. Like, how the heck do you get that big? You know, it's just it's madness. But yeah, it's pretty cool to see though, the freaks out there.
Sure.
Yeah.
What are your next plans, Kevin? In terms of, because we won't hold you too long. Okay, we're 20 minutes in. What's your next plans in terms of sort of competitive endeavors? Have you got plans to step back on stage anytime soon?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really thought about it too much. You know, I've always had goals and dreams of standing on certain stages. You know, the Yorton being one of them, obviously, and the Worlds as well. Those have always been my all-time goals.
Which ones? WNBF or IPE or?
Yeah, probably WNBF.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, those have always been my long-term goals. I haven't really thought about like doing it. Obviously, not this year. You know, maybe next year. I don't know. We'll see kind of how it plays out and see how my off seasons go. And you know, I feel like to make some gains before I step on a stage like that. I always like to be over prepared for shows, and so I feel like if I can make the very gains in order to compete with some of the guys that I've seen on those big stages, then we'll give it a go. But until then, I want to keep making those gains and making myself a better competitor.
Sure, absolutely. In terms of your level of conditioning is like up there with the best. Now a lot of people will say that, you know, sometimes they struggle to get in condition, and obviously we know that you staying relatively close to your contest weight at this stage is one of the factors that does help you get there and does help you achieve that level of conditioning. But in the past, when you've had to sort of really dig deep on that mental level, what have you found have been the biggest tools that have helped you in those really dark stages of prep, where you don't particularly want to train, you don't want to do your expenditure, you want to eat more? What do you find sort of keeps you going in those phases, so anyone listening to this who's potentially in the final stages of a prep can think, right, I'm going to go and fucking action that right now in my prep?
Yeah. I just think always kind of keeping your eye on the goal, you know? I mean, you know, like for my pro debut, I want to go in there and really place top 3, you know? And I feel like if you can constantly keep your mind on that goal, I mean, the struggle, you're always going to be in a struggle and a prep no matter what. And so if you can really focus on that goal and what you want to show up to do, I think that's imperative, and that'll get you through those dark times. Prep gets hard, of course, for everybody, but, if you can just kind of focus and really kind of keep your eye on the prize, I think that always helps.
I mean, this is something what I mentioned earlier. I think every time you do a prep, the next prep gets a bit easier just for the fact because you know what's going to come. So
right.
maybe you have to prep longer, maybe you have to lose more weight, but whatever. But you know what's coming, and that helps.
Yeah, sure. That absolutely does help. Yeah.
Kevin, from a nutritional approach perspective, I know that you worked with 3DMJ in the past, and you've done your own preps also. Now, obviously, 3DMJ in essence are definitely favouring of the more flexible approach, i.e. tracking your macros and fitting a variety of foods into your diet. Now, for you, what has tended to work in terms of structure when you're dieting? Do you like eating the same foods consistently day in, day out? Or are you more favourable in the essence of adding in foods, like large variety of foods? So thinking at the end of the day, I've got this amount of carb, fat, protein to hit, let's put together something? Or are you someone that prefers regimented structure?
When I'm in prep, I prefer the structure.
Sure, yeah.
Because I feel like, the less variables, the better. And it just makes it a little more simple. You don't have to come to the end of the day and you're like, oh, I got 100 grams of protein and 20 grams of fat and,
that's not ice cream.
50 carbs. What am I going to throw together? I don't like that. I don't like flying by the seat of my pants like that when it comes to prep. So if I can have a little more structure during prep, I think it's good. And I think it's beneficial for me anyways. But, like on refeed days and stuff like that, sometimes I'd, have a huge variety of food that I would eat just because it was a refeed day. And, you want to crush those carbs, Other than that, structure for me is good. And I prefer it that way.
Off season, do you relax a little bit more? I know that you're going out today. You've got lunch and things like that. So I think people like hearing that a professional does relax a little, because some people think that as a professional you must eat chicken and rice all day every day, and that's what dedication requires. So in the off season, do you tend to relax a little bit from structure and involve more variety in eating out into your plans?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. My off seasons. It's like, once a week my wife and I will go on date night and we'll go eat dinner and have some drinks and stuff like that. So, it's a lot more loose on my off seasons.
Yeah, great.
And, I think that helps balance a little more in life as well. If you're constantly structured, even when it comes time to the off season, dude, that's a lot of work. If you're constantly, weighing out your food and everything else, that's a lot of work, and that takes its toll on your family life as well, because, that balance isn't there. And I think balance is huge when it comes to like your family and everything else. You need to have that balance in life. And if you can't let loose a little bit in the off season, I kind of feel sorry for you really, because, it's not much of a life to live when you're constantly structured out.
Yeah, I totally agree. Cool. Well, Valentin, have you got anything left to sort of leave or ask Kevin before we let him go and get to his lunch arrangements?
Yeah, probably have one more question regarding training. And with you being more on the muscular side and very advanced, have you found that strength goes down quite a bit during prep? And if yes, did you change your training, or did you just go ahead and take the hits basically in training?
Yeah, so like before, like when I did that mini cut into that prep, that one prep that I did, like I would notice my strength gains fall off quite a bit once I'd hit like a certain body weight, and I just take the hits. It was kind of hard to deal with, but I just took the hits. But after I did that mini cut, like I found like my strength, and I don't know if it was like a mental thing or what, but I found like my strength went better through those lower weights. And so, like for my last show, I felt like my strength was always, fairly good until like the last, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and it fell off a little bit, of course. But yeah, I just take those hits and just deal with it. I mean, you know, I'm not a big ego lifter, so it really doesn't affect me that much because I know I'm still training as hard as I can with what I have to deal with.
Sure. Yeah, I really think this is something people need to hear because I recently posted the Doug Miller video, like 11 days out of the Orton, 2014, and he's like destroying things, and he's like 11 days out. So that's not common, guys. So don't expect that to happen during your prep.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, you can't look at the freaks when you're deep into prep. You know.
That's right.
Cool. Well, Kevin, massively appreciate your time, dude. Really good to have a chat, and obviously, we hope that this brings you, at least brings the awareness to yourself and what you're doing, and hopefully in your future preps you'll have a few more of myself and Valentin's little gang following your happenings and what you're doing. I know that you don't post too frequently on social media, but I see you on Instagram definitely getting more frequent, so please stay frequent because we like seeing your shit.
Awesome, I appreciate that.
So we'll let you crack on with the rest of your day, dude. Thanks very much for your time as usual, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you both. I appreciate it.
Cool, man.
Thanks, Kevin.
See you in a bit. I guess before we get into a little bit answering some questions or whatever we usually do, we'll just wrap up what we thought of that. With Kevin, which was great. That was awesome, I thought. One thing that I really took home from that is what I was actually talking to, and I know that you follow him as well, Mark Claxton, who's a DFAC pro. He listens to these as well, so he'll definitely be listening. We were chatting about sort of how he approaches things, and I was also asking him how he approached it when he was my age, because he's a junior, and at this stage, there's lots of things going through my head. I'm like, am I too heavy? Should I be a bit lighter? Should I be pulling back now? Should I be pushing? There's loads of things going in my head, loads of different opinions too. You know, there's plenty of people out there that will say, AJ looked great, keep fucking going, keep gaining. And there's some other people that will say, you could do with a pullback, you could hold your strength. And there's so many different opinions. What me and Mark were talking about is the fact that in all of my preps recently, over recent years, I have significantly pushed forward my strength with these gaining phases, massing phases, whatever you want to call them, which is superb and has resulted in definite tissue accrual, 100%. Because my last off-season was a year, I did one mini cut throughout that phase, and that was about a 10-pound drop. In that phase, I definitely did lose strength because I wasn't so adherent with holding on to strength. I didn't really know about that process as much in that phase, which would have been beneficial to know. But what we were saying essentially is that would it be better, me and Mark, for me to try to hold what I've got now at a slightly lighter body weight, hold that and then prep from there, as opposed to having so much to lose initially and then see a large reduction in strength and potentially muscle mass as a result. So I think it was interesting to hear what Kevin said about the fact that over the time of staying closer to stage weight, granted his level of muscularity is massive, but over the time of staying closer to stage weight, his relative strength is far better. So I guess the amount of fat that we're accruing has got to be looked upon as, is this beneficial fat that we're adding? So is it becoming, is it helping us gain strength? You know, so yes. The last I think 5 pounds that I've gained most recently has seen a huge increase in my pushing strength. So it always begs the question, you know, if I lost that 5 pounds, would I still have this pushing strength? Would I still be able to hold on to it, or would it go again? But yeah, so what's your sort of opinions on that, Val? Because I know at the moment you're still pushing. You've probably got a mini cut in the next, 2 to 3 months, probably, maybe, mate. I'm not sure what your plans are, but I know that you said you were initially maybe going to mini cut, but you've just pushed it onwards because you're feeling good and you're making good progress. So what's your sort of opinions on that, and where are you at?
Yeah, the thing you just mentioned is especially with guys your age and guys at your level.
Yeah.
The thing is, very often guys push the boundaries. They get stronger. They push towards a new body weight.
Yeah.
And they get maybe a little bit fluffy.
Yeah.
And then they get scared. And you should not get scared. You should hang out at that body weight for a couple of weeks and see how things settle, maybe a couple of months and see how things settle, see how your lifts maintain or if you can push them up further, and then decide if you're gonna cut or not.
Sure.
Because I can guarantee if you mini cut now, your pushing strength is going down the hill.
Sure.
So you just want to hang out at that body weight, push your strength up even further, and marinate those gains basically, and then come back later and see how your conditioning is and if you need a mini cut. But I'm usually one of those people, if you can push up your lifts and you get a little bit fluffy in the process, that's good. That's totally fine. But if you just get fluffy and nothing happens in training, that's a huge problem. Yeah. So I've seen this myself, for myself in the last couple of months and weeks. Actually, I look quite different now at this body weight than like a month ago, because my body just, like, I lost some water, I lost a little bit of fat. Like, there's been a little bit of recomp going on.
Yeah, you look good.
And I'm sorry?
Yeah, you look good. You look good at this body weight.
Yeah. And it just, I feel great. So there's no mini cut needed, even though we thought like 2 or 3 weeks ago we have to mini cut right now. Yeah. So we can push it another 2 or 3 months, and Cliff wants me to be around 204 pounds before we mini cut. And I'm on board with that. I'm not afraid to look a bit fluffier now to look so much better on stage in 2020. Yeah. And I think you have to think long term and accept those phases and those periods of time where you're not beach ready and where you just are a bit heavier and not super pretty. So
yeah, I mean, I think for the most part I agree with you on that sense. In some instances I have a slightly differing opinion, purely because I do like when I'm in gaining phases at the moment, like the past gaining phase that I've had, the thing that I've really enjoyed about it is assertive weight gain. I've done the whole 0.2 pounds minuscule weight gain over the course of a long period of time, and essentially just done fuck all in the process, and like gain no strength or gain minimal strength or held my strength. What I've liked about the ability to sort of like, you know, I've taken from November to now, pretty much, that's 27-ish weeks, and I've gained a total of 33 pounds over 27 weeks. So that's a decent weekly rate. That's a lot of weight to be gaining. It's much faster than the recommended amount. However, you've got to look at it as coming from pre-contest. I appreciate that. But in essence, I do like the idea of gaining at that sort of more appreciable rate, and understanding that if I am going to be gaining weight, I'd like to see it on the scale. So over the past couple of months, month and a half, I've done pretty much exactly what you just stated in terms of holding a body weight, and as you can see by all my training, everything's fucking gone up. So you don't have to necessarily this is what I said in my story the other day. You don't have to consistently search for a number on the scale going up for you to understand that, you know, things are happening in the gym. If your body fat levels are high enough and your calories are at a point where they're appreciable and you're not losing significant weight, you can still create an environment for hypertrophy. You know, you're not going to suddenly dwindle away or anything like that by sitting at maintenance or around maintenance calories, as opposed to what I was previous in, which was a large surplus. You know, to be gaining that 1 pound a week. So that's what I've essentially done over this week. I've started to sit more at a maintenance level of caloric intake. I've seen some water weight come off, which is kind of nice. I definitely hold body fat way fucking less favourably than you do. You know, I don't have abs right now, but I have a striated quad. Like, what the hell is that going on? I don't know why. You know, my legs at this body weight last time were fat as hell. Like, fat as hell. You know,
it's just born for man's physique, man.
Yeah. I don't have a clue. Because on the way down, I'd say, why can't I do men's physique? Because my upper body was peeled and my legs were fat. So I was like, I could legit put the trunks on now and be really ready. But if I had to show my lower body, they'd be like, whoa, he needed a good 3 months there. So yes, it's interesting, and I think over the next sort of month or so, I'll definitely see my body fat levels distribute a bit more, because they have been. It's been weird. It's been a lot on my hips, a lot on my torso, on my midsection, and I've never really had that before. I think we mentioned this in maybe a previous podcast. I'm not sure, but I've never really had that body fat gain before. So I don't know. It's an interesting one to discuss there, but that's sort of where I'm at currently. And then you're sort of eating similar calories at the moment, aren't you? And sort of continuing to push to that 204 mark, and then going from there. And you also had a really cool push session today as well. Talk about that.
Yeah, that's right. So calories are right around 4,100, and Cliff wants me to maintain. Yeah, Cliff wants to maintain that until next week, and then we might have to push it up again. Appetite hasn't been too great lately, so I really have to make my food as tasty as possible. I mean, still the same status as we last time talked, because I just struggle with certain periods of time. I just struggle. There's certain days where I just can't get any food down, and I have to, because otherwise I don't survive training. So. So my training session today was really good. I trained with Kevin Schutz, and he's a competitor in the PCA and NABA, and he's very strong, even though he don't consider himself strong, because he wants to get to another level. But we did a push session, and Kevin hoisted up the 70 kg dumbbells for 6 reps, so that was really impressive to see, and it just shows you once again how far you can go, and it shows you every single time you train with very, very strong people, and it's just a lot of fun, and you just feel weak as shit, man, when you train next to somebody like that. But yeah, very motivating, and I hope we can get more sessions in together.
Yeah, for sure. I follow Kevin online. I think I followed him since he did the JP show with the PCA. And he looked fucking sick. Like he had like straighted glutes, hamstrings were in. He's one of those sort of athletes that definitely brings a very, very cool physique to the stage with great conditioning, which is pretty rare in most federations at the moment to sort of see that being brought to the stage consistently. So, what's he doing at the moment? Is he off season?
I'm sorry?
Is he off season at the moment, or is he planning?
He's off season. Yeah, I think he plans on competing like spring 2019, something like that.
Sure.
Because he has to push calories so high, he just gets sick of eating. He told me he's drinking iced tea all day long because he just has to get those carbs in somehow. He actually competed against Sam Watts during that PCA show, which is quite funny to see Sam up there with those guys. But he held his own and took third, and Kevin took second. And really, really impressive guys, and very, very inspiring to train with somebody like that.
Sure, absolutely. So I think I got one DM with a couple of questions this morning when I asked for any questions. So I'll just try and bring that one up. I had a few ideas as well, but they're in my notes on my laptop, and I don't want to bring it up just in case it kills the recording.
Cool.
So I had a question from Rock Hard Fitness, and he says, what's more important for each of you, holding the peak contraction of the movement or controlling the eccentric more with no hold at the top? So no hold at the top, but more eccentric, or holding the top with less eccentric, I guess. So I guess he's talking about
options.
Yeah, it's really interesting. He's talking about essentially probably peak contraction versus eccentric loading. And he also commented on the fact that Jordan Peters likes controlling the eccentric more, and I see that I do a combination. Interesting. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you should always control the eccentric, no matter what exercise, no matter what you're training for, no matter what training level you're at. I mean, controlling the eccentric is something that's basic stuff that you just do to stay injury-free and get the most out of every rep. As far as peak contraction goes, it really depends on the exercise. It really depends on the angle. For example, if you're using cables, the way you set yourself up depends if you're getting a peak contraction, if it's even possible. And also with exercise selection, I mean, you're not really getting a peak contraction in like dumbbell presses, so because there's not much tension there going on. So it really depends on the exercise, but as far as controlling the eccentric, always control your eccentric, especially with your compound movements. The heavier you go, the more control you wanna use on your eccentrics.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that. I think that I see a lot of the time people really dumping the eccentrics on a lot of movements, especially in favor for progressive overload. So, you're looking at your logbook, you're thinking, I got this amount with this weight last time, and you're thinking, how am I going to progress that? It's just looking unfavorable in my chances of progressing this weight. So instead of keeping form immaculate, you choose to fasten up your eccentrics, use stretch reflex or whatever to try and progress the load. That we've got to remember that standardizing your execution from the get-go and then progressing from there. So you're not applying progressive overload when you're essentially changing the stimulus. So the exercise selection and the way that you perform those movements is your stimulus. You keep that standardized throughout progressive overload principle, and then you'll grow very well. But I think like you said, there are some exercises where peak contractions are harder to gain, and there's other exercises which also comparative to the setup of the machine. That will enable you to sort of get a peak contraction better. Some leg extensions are horrible. You can barely get peak contraction because of the way they're set up. But some other leg extensions, like that Strive one that I sent you the other day, they're fucking awesome. You can just go all day on them and get great contractions. So that's that. And then he did have another question. He said, discuss the ideal proportions for stepping on stage as a physique competitor versus a bodybuilder, which I know you got some physique guys, I've got some physique guys too, so it's a good question. We'll probably answer this. He also said, at my show back in 2016, I was told my shoulders were too capped for men's physique, and that was an IFBB South Africa show. Too capped for men's physique.
That's interesting, man. Because capped shoulders are one of the requirements, in my opinion, for men's physique. So as far as other requirements go, a very symmetrical midsection. The way your abs look for a man's physique is just crucial. If you look at like Jay Cutler abs, I wouldn't consider those men's physique abs. Yeah. They're not ideal. They're not super symmetrical. They look very impressive during certain poses for bodybuilding, but for men's physique, the abs are so important and in the focus that they just have to be picture perfect. So you want to have Dexter Jackson abs. So the other thing is I like to see a long torso with the person, and because if you're very short and stocky, you look like it doesn't look good for men's physique, man. Even if you're conditioned and if you are muscular, it just doesn't fit with the class, in my opinion. Yeah. So that with a certain shoulder-to-waist ratio and a very, very prominent V-taper are things that I would consider very important for men's physique, along with capped delts. I don't know what they were judging, but capped delts are perfect for men's physique. They're basically perfect for any class, so yeah.
Yeah, unless he's been injecting synthol into his medial delts, I can expect they might have some comments on that, but naturally capped delts. I think they accentuate that taper, and they make those front shots which MPD guys hit. They make them look awesome in that front relaxed kind of shot. The side shot makes more taper through the obliques into the waist. Everything looks sick with caps to your delts. One thing to add on that is that I actually had a client that went to a posing seminar with a UK federation, and they were sort of saying to him, you're very, very good, but one more off-season and you won't be physique anymore. You can't gain any more muscle, otherwise you'll get marked down. I think that the idea behind men's physique, especially within natural feds, is that you cannot be too big, because there has to be disparity between a men's physique competitor and a bodybuilder competitor. So the idea of the class is to make it more of an attainable look. Still, for the large population, it's not really an attainable look because the conditioning is still very, very high, as is some level of the muscularity. But in essence, you can't be fucking huge, because you're you know, like imagine Sam Watt in trunks. You know, you're not you're not gonna have that happen. So it's or board shorts, not trunks, because that's bodybuilding.
Sure.
But yeah, like you can't be too muscular, and I think that having a really good development to your upper chest would be something that I'd like to see as well, because that just, again, like if you see like people like Buendia, like who's very, like he's a men's physique Olympia, like his upper chest is just absolutely off the charts. So yeah, I think those sort of requirements when it comes to men's physique is key. Right, so have you got anything else that you recently got asked at all, Val, that you want to sort of talk about, or anything like came through your DMs recently that you specifically thought, oh, that looks interesting?
Yeah, one question that stuck out was the one, if you want to incorporate Romanian deadlifts for your hamstrings mainly, and regular deadlifts, floor deadlifts, how would you incorporate them in your training week? And I've talked about this in the past, and I like this question a lot, because it's certainly becoming an issue if you get to a certain strength level. Because let's say you do RDLs on Tuesday and you want to do deads on Friday, and that's going to be problematic, especially a week after. You only have 3 days to recover from your deadlift session, and your lower back is still fried, and then you want to do RDLs again on Tuesday. That's going to be an issue. Yep. So how would you go about it? And then I'll just share my few points.
Yeah, so I think the differences in low back recovery capabilities are high. So you're going to have different individuals that can handle a lot more and a lot less. So I had a client called Andrew who could recover from doing deadlifts, stiff leg deadlifts, a rack pull, and a squat all in the same week, and he was absolutely fine, no issues whatsoever. And he's probably he's the top echelon of low back recovery capability, and funnily enough, his erectors are thick as anything. So add those things up. But yeah, in terms of how I program it for myself, I would look to... Val, you still there? You've frozen on my end. Oh, dear. Oh, I got you back. You there?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm here.
Cool. So yeah, in terms of how I program it for myself, I would look towards trying to fit my my deadlift. Ideally, the way that I like to do it is that my deadlift comes after my more quad dominant leg day, and then I have some days to recover before a more hamstring dominant leg day in which an RDL will feature. So that's the way that I set it up. I mean, you could look at, I think I've seen the way that you kind of do it. You have squats and deadlifts sometimes on the same day. I've personally tried that, and I just simply don't have the capacity to be able to do that. I haven't met many individuals that can do that either on a frequent basis. So congrats to you. But yeah, seriously, I think that I think for me it's come down to a very low volume approach to my deadlifting. So I will literally do 2 or 3 sets of a deadlift per week. That is it. I see some people, and I've tried it myself, do 4 or 5 sets on a deadlift, and I simply cannot be recovering from that amount of work and then expect to RDL later in the week. So a low volume deadlift approach, a more quad dominant leg day, and a more hamstring dominant leg day is how I set it up personally.
Yeah, I really like that, man, and I do something similar. Something else to consider is if you want to incorporate RDLs and regular deadlifts in your training week, don't just look at those 2 lifts in isolation, but also look at all your other movements, like your rowing movements that stress the lower back, and you could swap them out for all chest-supported variations or machine variations. That would be another very good way to approach this, because then you save your lower back just for RDLs and just for deadlifts and maybe some squats. And all your rowing is on machines. You're using cables, you're using chest-supported machines. And by doing that, you save so much fatigue with your lower back that you're fresh for your RDL and your deadlift session. And I mean, the stronger and stronger you get, the less frequently you can deadlift. I mean, you just ask somebody who's really strong to like deadlift every 2 weeks or something like that, and that's enough. So you can only do that a certain amount of time before you just have to scale back your deadlift frequency.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Cool, wicked. So, have you got any plans over the coming weeks? I think you've got a couple of competitors coming up to their shows. Where are you off to? Are you going to spectate?
Yeah, going out to the Czech Republic tomorrow. I have 2 men's physique guys competing at the INBA PNBA World Championships, and they will also have a pro portion there, so I will watch some of the pros. I don't know who's going to come. I think some guys from the US are going to come, and I've seen the schedule, and there are like 8 guys in the pro bodybuilding portion of the show, so I will see if there are some high-level competitors there. And my 2 guys are still amateurs in that federation, so we'll see where we land. But they're both very competitive, and I just can't wait to see them on stage, man. That's good.
Do you fly or do you drive to the Czech Republic?
We can drive. It's like a 90-minute drive, so it's super easy. Okay. Yeah, it's a no-brainer to go.
Sweet. Yeah. And will you train out there, or are you taking a few days off over the competing weekend? How are you going to schedule that?
I will keep it pretty flexible because I don't know how much time we have between like pre-judging and finals, and if it's very stressful. Yeah. But if we can, we might get a training session in. Just have to find a good gym there, and then I will be back to my regular schedule on Sunday.
Sure. Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, similar scenario with me. I haven't got a show this weekend. I've got a client competing though, which is kind of like a last minute client, which I haven't talked about yet. So this will go up tonight. So. But I'm not going to mention his name, but he's very fucking good, and I'm excited to see how he gets on. He's a junior, so he's doing the BNBF Scottish this weekend. Unfortunately,
nice.
as I've only worked with him for his final week, but hopefully I'll work for him for the rest of the year now, and we'll take him to the finals, which would be great. But because I've only worked with him for his final week, I'm not going to go, because Scotland is legit. That's like a plane ride from here. So I'd have loved to have gone, but if I'd have been working with him for a longer time, I'd have definitely gone to that one because I like watching the shows. But yeah, that's this weekend, so I'll be nervously awaiting his result on that, because I personally think he's going to take it. So I've got that, and then the weekend after that, I'm in rugby with the UKDFBA. So if there's anyone there, please come and say hi, or just come up and grab me for an image, or give me a black coffee, one of the two. And I know you like your Monster. I'm a black coffee guy.
I know, yeah.
So yeah, we got that, and also got some. I had a phone call with Lee Kemp, who runs the UKDFBA. We had a really cool conversation about some ideas that we got rolling for essentially some content. Some video style content of the shows, so that's under wraps a little bit as well. But anyone that listens to this gets a little bit of an insider view into what we're doing, so you can have that this week. So that's very exciting, and that'll be some cool stuff for UK bodybuilding if we manage to get some cool stuff running there, and it will be great for me as well. So that's very exciting. And then outside of that, just continuing on, and really enjoying these podcasts. I'm sure everyone else is as well. I'm pretty sure I got a good few messages as to where the fuck was last week's episode.
Yeah, same for me, man.
Yeah, so we'll stay consistent with these. I now actually am aware of the time difference between us after many conversations and basically miscommunication between me and Valentin, because we're
what do we expect? We lift weights. Come on.
All we do is eat, sleep, and train. We don't have any communication skills.
Yeah. Come on, social skills. What the hell is that?
Cool, guys. So, have you got anything else left to add, Valentin? Apart from that's it.
No, guys. Train your ass off, and see you next week.
Cool, guys. All right. Thanks for listening as usual. Make sure you sort of screenshot us as you usually do. Add us to the old stories. Tag us in it. We love sharing them. We basically, the day after it's released, have a spam story of just other people watching our podcast.
Oh, hell yeah.
Various food items and coffees and monsters and chicken and rice. So yeah, cool, guys. I think we should also do, like, if you tag us in one of those stories, the best most intricate one that stands out to us both, we'll try and mention it on the next podcast. So if you do something really special, like if you're in a different city and you manage to get us in some like weird way in some different shit, then the most impressive one we'll try and mention, just so we give something back to the fans.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good.
Cool. Right. Cheers, guys, for listening, and we'll see you next week in a bit.